Alright, so I stayed out of this slavery was a choice thing for quite a while, and I just kind of got into it, and I'm realizing how fucking brain dead everybody everybody is. Like, it's absolutely insane that nobody even bothers to use more than like 2% of their brain their fucking brain power to try to understand what such an intellectual person is saying to them effectively, and they're just completely missing the point. It's going straight over their head. But I'm not here to rant. I'm not here to flame anybody. I'm just here to point out kind of the obvious shit that everybody's missing. I'm just gonna do like a minute's worth of intellectual thought into what this statement actually means and how it relates to reality as a whole and just life. Alright, so I have this video here from the Young Turks, which includes Kanye's interview, and also a few babbling baboons that we're going to take a few minutes to dissect into and criticize just a little bit. But I'm not really going to go too deep into the second part of this video, because that's not really what this video is about, but I will touch upon it a little bit. Alright, so without further ado, here's the interview clip, and I will be back with you guys shortly.
Kanye West stopped by TMZ and he said a number of controversial things. One of them is that slavery, he says, quote, is a choice. We have a video from TMZ. Let's take a look right now.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
Alright, now this is the part of the video where everybody seems to get confused and nobody really understands why Kanye articulates what he says this way, but I'll explain it afterwards. I'll go into depth. Don't worry. Just take it easy and enjoy the rest of this interview.
You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks. So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race. That we're the human race.
All right, calm down. We're gonna talk about slavery was a choice. The first thing that people hear, the first thing that people think of, and the first thing that people jump to is that they think that Kanye is saying that people chose to be slaves, which is just blatantly false. And it's extremely curious as to why people would think that somebody who's clearly extremely smart and very much so an intellectual would say such a blatantly false statement. It's honestly worrying when I see that people aren't even bothering to try to understand, to use their brains to understand what people are saying to them and try to actually dissect the meaning behind somebody's words. So you might be asking, hey, what does Kanye mean when he says that slavery is a choice? Well, what he's trying to say is that regardless of your situation, you always have a choice. So when you actually dig deep and start to think about what that means, and you start to relate it to slavery, you'll realize that people who are enslaved have two main choices. The first one being that they can remain as slaves, keep their mouths quiet and shut up, and have an okay chance at survival, essentially accepting their enslavement and living within the bounds of said enslavement. And then you have option B, which is fighting for your freedom, essentially risking your life to do so in the process, in hopes of finding a greater salvation for you or your collective group of people. So in relation to Kanye, he's essentially saying that for the longest time, enslaved people will just follow the path of option A and they'll accept the terms of their enslavement for the fear of their own lives. But what the message that Kanye is trying to get across is that these people, this collective group of beings, of individuals, always had the choice of option B. And granted, over the years, many people from this collective group fought, risked their lives, and even died for their freedom. And it is these people that made the choice to break free of their long history of remaining in enslavement that allowed us the freedoms that we have today. Alright, now mind you that I said choice. This is where the whole thing loops back around. In relation to Kanye's main point, he is saying to look at the past and look what happened when people accepted their enslavement and remained in their solitude. And remaining in enslavement in this kind of way is a choice in and of itself. And with that being said, you as an individual or a collective group as a whole always has the choice to stand up for themselves, and yes, at that risk harm to themselves, but in pursuit of a better future. All right, so that was my in-depth explanation as to what I think that Kanye is saying. Essentially, if you don't take risks to improve yourself, to improve your situation, and you always do have the option to take these risks, you will never go anywhere in life, whether that be an individual or a collective group as a whole. Alright, now we're going to cover the second part of what Kanye was saying and how his first point intertwines into what his overall theme is and his message for the people of today.
You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks.
So now is the overarching theme of his point, where he essentially points out the lack of free thought and free expression of ideas in today's society and how it's currently affecting the state of America as it is. And if you actually listen to what he's saying, it does not seem like he's trying to tackle a race issue. Even with his first point, even with the first thing that he says, he's not actually targeting a race issue. He's not targeting race relations or the past. He's targeting the present and how these ideas that were instilled in slaves, for example, in the past are currently affecting us, and how the circumstances relevant to the past could currently be affecting our mindset and how we treat each other and interact as human beings.
It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks. So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race. That we're the human race.
When he says this, he's saying himself that he's not targeting anything involving race. He's purely going for imprisonment of the mind. Now, imprisonment of the mind is a very broad topic, a very broad thing that you can instill upon another human being. But in this case, it's pretty obvious that he's talking almost about the media and the influence and the deception that is currently going around in, every news outlet, every story that you hear. There is some kind of bias, there is some kind of inaccuracy, there is some kind of flaw that is relevant in all of these news sources. All of the information that we take in today has some type of political bias. Now, to be clear, I am not fear-mongering. I don't think that every piece of information that you receive has a political bias attached to it, but a majority of the main news outlets, if you have a brain, you can kind of understand that they do. So when Kanye says slavery is a choice, he's not saying that the slaves chose to be slaves. He's saying that they chose to stay in their mental imprisonment that their captors had put upon them instead of trying to rise above it. And even this far into his interview, he's still trying to instill in the viewers' minds that this isn't a race issue. It's a societal issue that we all need to try to fix as a whole. And if we keep seeing ourselves as divided by color, creed, origin, anything like that, where this issue is never going to be fixed if we keep focusing on that too much and don't look at the right future. All right, so now that we understand what Kanye was saying, that this is a problem and an issue of free speech, of freedom of thought and expression, let's move on to this next part of the interview that I find to be extremely ironic.
Okay, so before I toss over to the panel, I want to apply a little bit more context because that was just Kanye West's quote. He then sort of turns it over to the newsroom in TMZ, and Van Lathan, who's a writer at TMZ, responded, and this is what he said. He says, "You're entitled to believe whatever you want, but there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. You have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice," ending by saying that he was disappointed, appalled, and unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something that to me is not real.
Now, I find this extremely ironic because some guy in the newsroom made the choice to stand up to Kanye, somebody with more power and influence than his own, to risk his own reputation just to voice how he felt. This effectively legitimizes Kanye's point, which is not that people chose to be slaves, but that regardless of whatever situation you're in, you always have a choice, whether it be for the individual or the collective group as a whole. Alright, so I was going to talk about these people. I said it was at the beginning of the video, but I've changed my mind because I can't stand listening to them. You can go watch the interview yourself or watch the post interview and the discussion they have and just see the pure amount of ignorance that they have towards the situation. The lack of brain power, for lack of a better word, that they use to try to understand what somebody means by the words that they say. Yeah, so you can go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description, but I can't stand listening to these people anymore.
I think Kanye's really trying to sell an album. And I think that this is a social experiment, I hope, and he's trying to see if he can go as far as he can go and still get people to buy his albums and show people that he owns it.
And after that first sentence that she just said, I'm assuming that you can understand why. All right, so that concludes my video. That concludes my discussion. Feel free to leave any criticisms that you have for me or my video or my viewpoints, because these are just my personal opinions, in the comment section below. I'll try to respond if I feel that they're valid criticisms. I'm always looking to improve my content. This is my first video on here. I said fuck it, I want to discuss something, so I kind of did. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll try to respond to each and every one of you guys. And yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, because this is a new thing that I'm doing in my realm of video creation. So I'm really looking to branch out. This is a new thing that I'm doing. I want to discuss a lot more stuff involving gaming, just because that's what I'm interested in, and maybe some more relevant topics in today's social media realm. But if you did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe, because I will continue to make these videos. And if you like me and my content, I will make more of it for you. So have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.